Hello everyone. Today we'll be looking how to do a HTTP GET callout from an integration procedure. So let's quickly move to our org. Okay. So let's create an integration procedure. For this, I would be using an open source API, which is known as Weather Stack API, and I'll be doing a GET request on this URL, which will fetch the weather of that particular location which I pass in the query. Okay, I've already, if you want to access this query, if you want to access this open source API, you can just sign in with the stack and you will get an access key and your other information. For this particular API, only two things are required, which is the access key, which you get on signing, and the other thing is the query in which you pass the city name. Okay. So here is our integration procedure. First, we want to drag and drop an HTTP action here. So this will be required to call the do an HTTP callout. Okay. In the HTTP path, we have to give the URL of the API, the endpoint of the API, which in this case is this. And in the HTTP method, you have to mention what type of callout you are making. Is it a get? Is it a post, put, or delete? So ours is a get. If you are using a name credential in org, you can mention that name credential here and it will take the endpoint information from there. The rest information I would pass only two parameters which are required in my case. The first one is the access key and the value would be this specifically for me, and here the query contains the city name. If you want your query to be dynamic, use a merge syntax here. City name. This is the variable in which you want to pass the city name from wherever you are calling this IP from, whether it can be a Apex class, LWC, or Omniscript. Okay, you need to pass the city name from there. I don't want to send the body because this is a get and it will require only these two information. If you want, if your API has client ID, client secret, you can pass it in the headers. Okay, for this one it is not required. Now, this is the minimal requirement of calling an API. Okay, but it's not still complete. We have to add other things as well. But I want to show you how it looks like in preview. In the input parameter, I would like to pass the city name, same, and execute it. Okay, so I did not get any response. Let's see. This is the part where you can debug this on this in this IP. Okay, so here it shows the full response. It will show the full data JSON. It will show what I pass as the input and what was the response. The response was nothing because I did not add any response action. The execution sequence was just this element. Call API, call whether API, this is the HTTP action element which has two things. The debug would contain the input which I sent to the API, and the second one would be the response which is coming from the API. Okay, so it's not returning anything. Okay, it is okay. It is returning, so but it's not returning it here because I have not added anything in the response. So suppose this is being returned, right? It's returning the visibility, it's returning the UV index, humidity, precipitation, and the other things. But I want to transform this to return only few information. Okay. So what I will do is I will use a data adapter transform action. So let us drag and drop a data adapter transform action. And here I will use a existing transform which I've already built to trim the response. This is the one. I'll explain you what I've done there. And here I want to send for this for this dr, for this data adapter, I just want to send a particular path of the JSON, which is this. I don't want to send the whole IP JSON, whole integration procedure JSON to this data adapter transform. So here in the send JSON path, I'll write this element name. Okay, so anything which is present inside this, the response of this would go to the input of this data adapter. Let's see how this data adapter is constructed. So here we have three things, right? In the data adapter transform, we have input JSON, expectation, and the current JSON. Input JSON, you would need to fetch what your input looks like to that data adapter transform. So I pasted the whole API response which came. Okay. And in the expected JSON output, I constructed a JSON in which I want the output to be. Okay. So I wanted region, country, wind speed, temperature, and UV index only in this format. Okay, so now after doing this input and output, expected output, I would like to map the input to the output. So if you see the region, region is present inside the location. So location colon region, I have mapped it to the region. Similarly, location colon country, I have mapped to the country. Okay, because country is present inside the location only. Similarly, for the temperature, UV index and wind speed, which is present in the current node, I have mapped it to from the current temperature and UV index and wind to the output. Now, if you want to preview if it is working fine or not, I will go to the preview section. This input JSON will automatically come here, or you can change it as well. You can execute it, and we'll see how the response is coming. So it's coming correctly, right? Now I was here. So now I will come to this IP and I will drag and drop a response action. So response action is required, always required to send the response of your IP back to the source from wherever you are calling this IP from, whether it can be an affix class, LWC or omniscript. Okay. So here I don't want to pass the whole IP information. I don't want to return the full data JSON of the IP because it's not required. Okay. So I'll just pass the JSON path of the transform data adapter, which is this. So I copy this and I pass the JSON path. Now let's see what it gives me back. Okay. So this is the response which is coming. The index, wind speed, temperature, country, and region, which has come from the data adapter transform. So this was a simple how to do a get HTTP callout from a integration procedure. Thank you.